This video is spoiler free outside of general out of context gameplay footage in the background. It is really hard to make a game perfect. No matter how well the developers try, there's always room for improvement. So to say this game is perfect would be a lie, but not by much. You see, Lies of P was recommended to me by one of my real life friends who, as I found out, is a pretty enthusiastic Souls-like or Dark Souls game player. He picked up the genre at Elden Ring, and when I asked him, hey yo, I saw Lies of P on sale on Steam, is it any good? He had nothing but good things to say about it, and that is when it started my fixation on this game. You see, I'm not a Souls gamer, and I've never played Elden Ring. I've never played Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Sekiro or any of the other Souls-likes before this one. Lies of P was my entry point. Based around the original version of the Pinocchio storyline, there is enough pure world building around this theme to allow writers to both follow or neglect the source material as they saw fit, meaning that this story is as much Pinocchio as it is not. And I think that's what I love about it. There are various factions with their own backstories and motivations, and each of these characters fits well into the overarching plot and aesthetic, which is very refreshing. By the end of the game, the only loose ends that exist are those intentionally left open. The game's basic premise is simple. It's a puppet that is becoming a human, and in this world, puppets can't lie, but you are given choices to offer truth and lies, and you are often encouraged to lie, and that is what makes you human. But lying is bad. Well, this game puts a spin on it where lying is often viewed as a good thing or the kinder thing to do. Not always, but for the most part, that's how it presents itself. The gameplay of Lies of P revolves around a few different mechanics. Your general weapon, which is split into 3 categories, which are motivity, technique, and advance. And these 3 are basically strength, dexterity, and condition damage, respectively. In addition to that, you have what's called a Legion arm, which can be changed out or upgraded to provide different special abilities, be it a flamethrower or a wire to grab people or even a cannon that fires explosives. There is a durability mechanic on your weapon, which is implemented well enough to be ignored when doing general gameplay stuff, but is super punishing if neglected during boss encounters. It's a fun bit of extra pressure since there are some status effects that can drain your weapon durability resource, and it adds extra pressure to fights. I think it's really well implemented. And the last mechanic, and the most well done and talked about mechanic, is the parry mechanic. And this mechanic is what takes the game to the next level. You have a regular guard, which will cost a slight amount of recoverable life or stamina to block an attack. Activating the guard at the perfect moment where you would be hit will allow for a perfect parry, which costs no extra resources, and it will build up what's called stagger on the bosses or even break enemy weapons if you do it consistently enough. Embracing this mechanic above all others will give you significantly more enjoyment when facing bosses or tougher enemies. Knowing that you timed things perfectly just feels so good. The interesting thing about weapons and damage is the system that they have in place where you can dismantle weapons. And outside of unique boss weapons, nearly every single weapon in this game can be mixed and matched. They are split between the blade and the handle, where the blade is the damage component, so if there are any special attributes like fire or corrosion damage, and the handle is what gives you the attack animations and attack sequences, as well as the scaling. With this, it allows you to come up with a lot of crazy combinations that fit into your personal playstyle. It adds quite a bit of replayability to the game, while also not forcing you to feel locked into any particular weapon. And from what I can tell, most weapons are preference based, with only a few outliers that really stand out that are, considered OP. But you can come up with a lot of strange and interesting combinations to experiment with in this game. The maps and travel system and navigating the world is fairly linear, with enough nooks and crannies to be exciting and to incentivize exploring without you having to get lost or feeling like you're going in the wrong direction. Additionally, there are a decent number of shortcuts and run back spots, allowing you to work through these levels without being completely decentivized after your first or second death. Really, you are likely to die, even if you've already played through the game. Sometimes a mistimed dodge or missed parry will result in your death, and because of that, this game is often labeled as very hard, even compared to games in the same genre. This game is largely skill-based, where you don't need to reach a certain level to beat a boss or to get through an area. You don't need to level up your equipment to a certain point before you can complete the game. However, it is useful. Shortly after playing through the game myself, I saw some other creators do challenge runs where they only use the Legion arm without using a weapon, where they only play the game without leveling up at all, and so on. So this game can be played with very strict challenges, or it could be played more casually, easier, and if you take things slow, you will eventually make it through, even if you aren't super good at the game. With that being said, however, the truth is Lies of P is a hard game, but the developers have given you, the player, everything that you could hope for to make it through these levels. You have the Spectre on most boss fights. You have a lot of throwables, which are very strong and overtuned, so you can definitely make it through. And after the game being out for a year, the game is largely solved with plenty of guides and cheesy strategies to make fights easier. So while there is no difficulty settings for this game, there are ways to make it significantly easier outside of just grinding levels and beating your head against the encounter until you finally get it. There will be plenty of that, but for the most part, when you lose, it will feel fair, and you are often missing something. You're trying to block an attack instead of dodge it, or vice versa. You need to readjust your strategy. And with the DLC coming out in Q1 of this year, and a sequel to follow later this year, I highly recommend this game for anyone looking for a challenging yet fulfilling story that only takes about 25 hours to complete. Its story and lore are told very upfront through the gameplay, so you don't really need to hunt down flavor text to understand what's going on or who is a good guy, who is a bad guy. I picked this game up on sale from Steam and I played it on mouse and keyboard. However, it is available on Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation 5 as well, and it has full controller support if you do choose to play on console or play it on PC. And with that is Lies of P. I'm working on a full playthrough of the game, currently on members only live streams, and we'll be continuing through to its completion. If you want to become a member, there's a link in the description below if you choose to support the channel. With that said, thank you so much for watching. A big thanks to all my subscribers and a special thanks to all of my members. We have a lot of good games coming out this year, because one of the ones I'm the most excited about is the DLC and the sequel for this game. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.